large part, though, that's because of the partnerships that we've established over the years with our community. We have partners like the fire department, medic, the sheriff's office, and various other agencies that have been a part of this operational plan all along and helped us execute it fabulously yesterday. We'll continue to follow that plan. We prepare for large events that are going on in the city today, many of which include the Panthers' preseason game against the Dolphins at Bank of America Stadium. The Knights are playing as we speak over at BB&T ballpark. We have a few road races, foot races uptown, and 2 high school football games that are scheduled for Memorial Stadium this evening. We as an organization are prepared to ensure that this environment remains safe. Our ops plans will be coordinated through the command center, which we're going to open at 4 o'clock this afternoon. Also, just to give you a little idea of what those plans are, we have both traffic and pedestrian plans that are going to keep the traffic moving and our pedestrians safe to cross to get to those various venues. Special events staffing models that we've employed that are going to help us both facilitate on and off duty personnel so that we can cover all the venues and ensure that if anything pops up, we can handle it uptown and around the city. We also, as always, have to prepare for spontaneous protests. We're going to facilitate them as we always have. We encourage people to get their message out as long as they're within the laws. Real-time crime center is going to be open and be reviewing all of our cameras throughout the uptown and along major corridors. And we're going to have officers, lots and lots of officers, as always, on foot, on bicycles, motorcycles, and cars. If we had horses, we put them on horses as well. So you see plenty of our officers. Listen, we were largely successful with our efforts, mainly because of pre-planning and the peaceful demonstrations and also the strong relationships we've built over the few years that we've been preparing for incidents such as this. We're happy that the community continues to rally around our officers. Our officers did a heroic job last night, and I expect the same moving forward. We will continue to engage our community. We're going to serve them, as always, with unwavering commitment to achieving our mission, which is treating people with fairness and respect. That's what we stand for. That's what our community expects and deserves. What are your questions?
Let's talk about last night. I mean, can you talk anything about the training that your officers go through? I witnessed a lot of people getting up in the officers' faces, them just staring right back at them. At what point do they go too far when they get in their faces, start pushing at them? When is it the decision made to make?
When is enough enough?
Yes.
Absolutely. I'll tell you, our officers, again, did a heroic job. They displayed a great deal of restraint. There were a lot of scenarios that we put them through to prepare them. There are a lot of reps. Our command staff in the back could attest to it. And also, we're always looking, because we're human. If you start to get a little elevated emotionally, our heroes in the back are going to pull you off the line and replace you. But what I saw last night was there was not a great need for that. Our professionals were professionals, and they were seeing and hearing all kinds of things that we probably would prefer not to see and hear, but they acted appropriately, and I think it was because of the reps they've given in that training leading up to what we saw last night.
Chief, that started out as a relatively small group of people over on 4th Street, 12, maybe 20 at the most, but it grew as the night went on. Is it possible to say how many of those who joined in maybe were from out of town, not local people?
Well, what I can tell you is this. I don't know that we saw a lot of out-of-towners, but I do know in the history, you guys know, 4th of July, we'd see some younger people come in town and want to just behave inappropriately. And that's kind of what we saw. And to be more specific with it, the initial protests, and they weren't organic. We weren't trying to control people. We're just going to facilitate their right and freedom to express themselves and get their message out. They were very organic. They weren't police controlled, because all we have to do is keep them safe and keep our community safe, and we did that. But the transition happened later in the evening, and it became a lot more of the younger crowd, and the behavior, which was much more aggressive, and they even became violent, throwing rocks at our officers, and that's where we decided that the second part of our plan was to address those kinds of behaviors, and we did pretty rapidly.
So Chief, there was 2 arrests, correct?
Yes, a total of 2. I would say that will be all that will be arrested, but at this point it's a total of 2.
Your message to those young people.
Which young people? The
young
ones
people
arrested?
who you saw, no, not just the ones who were arrested, made things more violent as the night progressed?
Well, I can tell you, I was in the mix of a lot of what was going on, and I can tell you this: the disappointment is the behavior is just not behavior that we're going to be able to tolerate. If you start assaulting our officers, we're going to have to protect ourselves and protect the public, and our officers did so fabulously. But my message to them would be quite clear: just abide by the law. We'll facilitate your message if you want to get a message out, but we're not going to allow for inappropriate behavior.
Chief, following up on
We'll go here and then here. I'm sorry. We'll come up. Yes, sir.
Chief, I'm friends with a lot of the CMPD police officers on Facebook, and a lot of them have created their own protests on social media saying that CMPD should have never charged Officer Kerrick, and it was a rush to judgment to charge him.
Sure.
How do you respond to that?
Again, like I said yesterday, man, everybody's entitled to their opinions. Just be able to set them aside and professionally serve this community. That's all I ask. I get we're divided. We represent this community. This community's divided. So we got a lot more work to do, and we're going to continue to do it. I would just say you're entitled to your opinion. Set it aside and professionally serve this city as they expect us to. Yes, sir.
Following up on the earlier question, the two who were arrested last night for assaulting officers, were they local or were they from out of town?
I don't have that information, but we'll get that as a follow-up.
Do you have any idea how many officers responded last night? A number?
Yes. I'm not going to disclose that. We're going to use the appropriate number. It was a significant amount, and we're equally equipped this evening. And really, for safety issues, I'm not going to talk about numbers because hopefully you won't have to see them all. But trust me, we have plenty of officers on foot, bikes, motorcycles, and vehicles to handle anything we encounter.
Is there any reason why anyone should not come into the city tonight and go to any of the games or events that you mentioned?
Absolutely not. I would encourage everybody to come in, the families, and enjoy themselves. If I weren't working, I'd be doing the same thing, cheering on the Panthers as we beat the Miami Dolphins to be 2-0 in preseason. But who's counting? I say yes. It'll be a very safe environment uptown.
What are you expecting as far as rallies, protests today and this evening?
We have knowledge that a few have been planned, and some have been executed already very peacefully. We have one that's going on currently at the courthouse. So there are a few things going on, but a lot of people who were pre-planning and organized about it, even though it's civil disobedience, they're abiding by the law. So we expect those to continue as long as people want to get the word out. But right now, there's no concern around anything that might transpire later this evening.
Do you know if there were any groups behind some of the protests that happened last night as it grew later?
What I can tell you, it was a lot less organized. There were no organized groups that we've been encountering leading up to this. So this was a lot more spontaneous and random.
Chief, just from an emotional standpoint, a people standpoint, for your guys, seeing what went on last time, what is that like for y'all? Can you just kind of bring us into your mindset in a situation like that?
It's moving. Last night, I was trying to go home, and I couldn't because we wanted to debrief with the guys. And I went out to where they're, taking off their gear and getting ready to go home and take showers and see their families. And you can't help but really respect the sacrifice they're willing to do for this community. And you talk about how divided we can be as an organization. At the end of the day, we're a family. We have different opinions. We're going to fight a little bit. We're going to disagree a lot because we're very opinionated people. But at the end of the day, we're human, and we're putting this community before ourselves. So you can't help but respect that. It's moving, it's touching, it's humbling, and I'm just proud to be a part of their organization.
Are you surprised at the mistrial?
Am I surprised? Well, what I can tell you is we're a divided city, we're a divided country for that matter. So things like this happen. I'm just going to wait and see how it all plays out.
Across the street, a couple of the people who were gathering called for a complete, review and revision of CMPD's use of force policies. Is that something the department is considering?
No, it's something we've already been doing. We have community leaders who are already assessing it, giving us all kinds of feedback and critique, some of which I think is right on point. Again, it's hard to see the forest for the trees sometimes, so we're going to step back and let other people weigh in. We have we have cops who are also giving us guidance. So this is not me. This is much bigger than me. This is our team and our community improving our organization as a police department.
Are the officers who were assaulted last night doing okay?
Yes, there were minor injuries, and we're thankful for that. And I'll tell you, they're ready to get back on the front line and make the city safe again tonight. Yes, ma'am.
I've heard that there were discussions going on within the police department about this, the whole Kerrick trial and events leading up to that. What is that looking like? Are there organized events, or is this not accurate?
What I can tell you that, again, we're very opinionated. We're a vocal group. We're saying what we feel in our hearts about everything. But is there an organized movement or something like that? No. But what we are going to do is hear all of those opinions, have everybody, externally we've been allowing a lot of people to decompress and get their voices heard. We're going to do the same thing internally over the next few days because our officers deserve that. So there are a lot of varying opinions, but there's no movement afoot.
How do you do that internally, I guess, is what I'm getting
I
at.
shut my mouth, unlike what I'm doing now. I listen, and I then make analysis based on how we move forward best as an organization.
Couple more guys. Anyone?
I know you didn't want to put a direct number on.
And I'm
the
not going
response
to,
last
but you
night.
can ask me.
But I'll try anyway.
Yes.
Can you at least give me maybe a range? More than 50?
It was more than 50.
Less than 100?
More than 50.
Can you say if the officers are on 12 off?
I can say it's varying schedules, but that is one of the schedules that we actually utilize. Yes, sir.
We appreciate it.
Thank y'all.
Everybody.
Carly, do you have anything to add?
Absolutely. Take care.
Mr. Carly, do you have anything?
No, I'm good, unless you have something.
Can we just get a reaction from you while you're here?
At the podium.
There you go.
There. What did you think of what happened yesterday, and has it affected the city in any way?
Well, I'm extraordinarily proud of CMPD and the way they conducted themselves last night. I monitored it very closely, and it's some of the finest professional policing I've ever seen in my very long career. There are very few departments that have the discipline and the intelligence to deal with the situation the way CMPD did last night. I'm extraordinarily proud of them. I was also proud of the protesters, too. There were a handful of them that looking to cause them trouble, but they were being self-policed within themselves. Other protesters stood up and said, let's don't do this. There were bystanders that came in and talked with protesters about appropriate behavior. And so I think everything we've been saying about the kind of community that Charlotte is was really displayed last night, where we want people to express themselves, but to do so in a really safe way.
Have groups like cops and barbers and the pastors who have tried to get involved in preparing for today, has that all worked, do you think?
Well, yes, it has. It's made a huge impact, but going back even further, at every neighborhood meeting that takes place in this city, there are police officers there, and usually a large number of them. Our police department has really focused on getting to know the people in the communities where they police, and that knowledge between people and the police makes all the difference in the world. As I think it was the mayor said yesterday, we've got to break down misunderstanding and fear with one another. You do that by getting to know people as people. I was at 2 events today, one up on Beatties Ford Road and one out at Sugar Creek Recreation Center. Large numbers of community people, police presence, and other community people coming together, building community.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you all. Thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you.